morning, class. We're going to discuss copying files to start off week 3 here. So first thing we want to do is we're going to look at our PuTTY session where I have already logged in on my Raspberry Pi to Linux, and over on the right, as usual, we have our command prompt or our DOS picture of what's going on. So what we do first of all, and this is a repeat from last week, we're going to create a few directories so we can go through copying files. So again, we discussed the make directory command last week. So here I've done a make dir on pictures. I've done a make dir on videos. I've done a make dir on papers. So now under my home directory, remember we discussed this last week as well, the tilde represents the home directory. So there's 3 folders or 3 directories on the Raspberry Pi Linux, which is pictures, videos, and papers. Over on the DOS side on my computer, I've also created pictures, videos, and papers. As you can see, these commands between DOS and Linux are the same exact command, very similar. The way you're going to set up the path and the way you're going to use the slashes with the path will be different between the two. Actually, a lot of newer versions of Windows will allow you to use a /, but for the purpose of this class, we're going to stick with the \. So I've created this under my home directory. I did go ahead and create a temp directory to do this. I did this because the pictures and videos folders already exist by default in most versions of Windows. So to keep them separate, I created this temp directory. So you should try doing that as well. So under users glen temp in Windows, I have these 3 folders created. Now the touch command is an interesting one that exists in most Linux distributions and most Unix distributions. Touch will create an empty file, meaning a file with nothing in it right now. So when I type touch pic.bmp, that's creating a file name of pic.bmp, touchvid.mov, and paper.txt are going to be files that just get created in Linux. These are not legitimate paintbrush pictures, as the BMP would state. It's not a legitimate QuickTime movie. And paper.txt actually is going to be a legitimate text file, though it won't have anything in it. On the DOS side, I've used the echo command, which really will just echo what you type to the screen if nothing's specified, or you can redirect the output. So in this, these files are going to be largely empty as well. I believe I probably put a space in there by putting a space in with this. But these files are going to be largely empty as well. So again, pic.bitmap or BMP is not a legitimate picture file. And vid.mov is not going to be a legitimate movie file. And again, paper.txt is actually a legitimate text file, although it won't have anything in it. So we can see this by going into the C drive, looking under users, going into Glen, and then temp. So you can see we've created the papers folder, the pictures folder, the videos folder, and you'll see there's icons associated with these different types of files. If I were to try and open this bitmap, it's going to try and open it with paintbrush, and it's likely going to fail. So it's trying to open it as a photo. We can't open this file. It doesn't know what to do with it, so it didn't open it in paintbrush. But even still, if I open papers.txt, this will open right up in, I'm going to force it to open with Notepad here, because most of you don't have Notepad++. So it's just coming back and saying the echo is on. So really what I probably should have done to make this smaller is just typed echo and then a period. But we will get into the echo command later on. So now we have the exact same files in Linux and the exact same folders in Linux in our directories as we do on the Windows side. So we'll go on in just a second. Thank you. We're going to continue now by moving and copying these files that we've just created here. So now we're going to take the pic.bitmap file and we're going to copy that to the pictures folder. To do this in Linux, the command is cp, which is the equivalent to the word copy in DOS or in Windows. So we will type in cp space, we're going to type in pi, which will pic dot bitmap. We're going to we could copy this using the relative path, or we could copy this using the absolute path, as we discussed last week as well. I'm going to use the relative path in this instance. So I'm going to type it into pictures, and I'm going to, I could either type the file name out, or I could put a dot right here just saying go ahead and do it, or I could just leave it like this. I like to use the dot, but that will take that pic.bitmap file and move it into the pictures folder. So if I type ls-l here now, it's going to look exactly the same. There's going to be the pictures.bitmap, the video.movie, and the papers. However, if I wanted to take a look at the pictures folder now, you'll see that the picture file also exists here. Let's do that on the DOS side now. At this point, we've got the pictures directory, we've got pic.bmp. In DOS, the command is copy. It's going to be pic.bmp, and we're going to copy that to the pictures folder. We're going to use the backslash. You could probably use either, but get in the habit of using the backslash in DOS. We can type pic.bmp here, or we could use the dot again. I'm going to type pic.bmp just so we can see that the file actually gets there. And here, this one's a little bit nicer. It actually says one file copied. So again, if I type a dir here, I can see I've got all my original documents and images here. However, if I do a dir on the pictures folder, you'll see that the pic.bitmap exists, and it's 13 bytes. And it's 13 bytes here as well, so we know it copied. So now I'm going to jump back here real quick. So as you remember this from last week as well, the dot dot will take you back to the parent directory. Alright, and now we're going to try, and we're going to move the video.movie file. First of all, I'm going to teach you something a little interesting with move, which we're going to cover a little bit more in later weeks. There's a rename command on DOS and in Windows that actually will rename a file. In Linux, we use the move command, or it's actually mv, which we'll see in a minute. And we move the file to a different name in Linux. So think about it that way. You're moving the file to a different name. But that's for a later discussion. So in Linux, mv vid.mov, and since this is a QuickTime movie, we're going to move that to the videos folder. And see, I can't hit the tab because it doesn't know which one to do it with, so I type an E, I should be all set there. So here I won't type the period, I'll just type it like this. And it has gone ahead and moved it. So now if I do an ls-l, you can see there is no vid.mov. If I go ahead and do an ls-l on the videos folder, videos, I don't know why I couldn't do that. Aha, I see why. See, the slash is in the wrong place. So that was looking from the absolute roots. So what we just want to do is type videos. And you can see that that video file has actually been moved. On the DOS side, we will take the same file. We'll do a dir just to show you. Oops. Go back to the temp folder. Do a dir. We'll do an move, because that's what it is in DOS. Move vid.mov to the videos. That's a C. I'm having typing issues this morning. Videos. Now it says one file moved. I do a dir. It's gone. I do a dir vid. Now we're going to discuss how to delete a folder or delete a directory. Before we go ahead and do this, though, I want to get our video.movie file back into the base directory here. So I'll do an ls-l. We can see it's not there. We know it's under videos. So we're just going to move it back. We're going to go from video. Whoop, keep typing a C. We're going to go from videos. And I forgot the name of the file, let's say. So we'll use a V and hit tab. And we'll use a dot to bring it right back to where it was. So now we have our pictures, paper, and video.movie here. In this directory, we're going to do the same thing on the DOS side. So we're going to move, we're going to go from videos, we're going to use a backslash. I can just hit the tab key, that's the only file there, and we'll hit a period again. And we'll do a dir. And as you can see, all of your files are back where we want them on this directory as well. So now, let's go ahead and delete this videos directory. So since we're in the DOS side, we'll do it there already. That's the rmdir command to remove directory, vid.mov. And that's, if we type that, actually that's wrong. Let's hit enter and see that. It's not a directory. As we can see here, that's a file and not a directory. The directory specifies that it's a directory as such. So let's do an rmdir on videos. Alright, I hit enter. I don't get any prompt. I know it's gone. And you can see there's no longer a videos directory there. On this side, we're going to type rmdir videos since it is empty. And it's gone as well. So we can see that. Now, I don't actually want it to be gone because I do want to just... There's a couple other caveats with this that I'd like to show you. So we're going to recreate the videos folder. Alright, so we have our videos folder back. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to use the copy command because I don't want to have to move this back and forth again. So I'm going to use a copy vid.movie. And we're going to copy that to videos. Alright, now on this side we're going to do the same thing. Remember, it's the cp command, video.movie to, and we do an ls-l. We can see that the video movie is still here. On this side we'll do a dir. We'll see that both are still here as well. We'll do a dir on videos. We can see that our file's here in videos. Here we'll do an ls-l videos. And we can see that that file is right there. So now let's say we want to get rid of the videos directory one more time. So let's do it. We'll do an rmdir and we'll delete videos. Alright, so let's hit enter. Wait a minute, what does that say? I don't think we can do it here. Well, we can do it on the Windows side because it's probably easier there. So let's do an rmdir on videos here. Directory's not empty, so you get pretty much the same message in both. They're both error messages saying we can't do it. So how do we get around that? Well, that's what I'm going to show you right now. There's several ways you can do this, and I'm only showing you a couple different ways to do things. Remember, we have our help over here where we can do help on a command, or we could do a /h after every command. Over on the Linux side, remember they're man pages, or we type man and then the command. Also, using the internet is a great option for this. So let's try and do this by setting our flags. So we'll do an rm. Here it's going to be a -r for recursively remove. And we're going to type videos. Okay, so that directory's gone. And on this side we're going to do an rmdir /s for subdirectories, or to subsequently remove everything after it. And it's prompting me here. I could do a /q to put that into quiet mode. If I don't, very quickly, I think we are interrupted here. So here we get, are you sure, yes or no? Maybe for some reason if you're writing a script you don't want to be prompted. You know for sure you want to get rid of that In that case, you would type rmdir/s/q for quiet mode, and then you type videos. I'm actually typing this out because it's not actually there, because I did say yes to actually get rid of it. So expect an error here, but the /q flag will make it so it doesn't prompt you for yes or no. So I think I am going to put that on a quiz, that /q for the rmdir command. So that being said, like I said, you'd get an error there because we did successfully delete the directory. So going forward here, so we can keep on our next assignments, let's go ahead and do an mkdir, and we'll recreate the videos directory again. And over here, we'll do an mkdir. So everything's back the way it was now. If I do a dir here, I have the 3 files. If I do a ls here, I have all the files I'm looking for as well. So while we have a couple minutes, I did want to mention one other thing that we'll cover in a little bit more detail here. However, this .bmp, you can tell these are binary files and they're a different color as such. This is because of the emulation we're doing by some special display settings that are set up in the profile for this user. However, Linux at its core doesn't care if it's .bmp and doesn't care if it's .mov. It's not necessarily going to associate extensions with a type of file, where Windows absolutely will. So that's an important distinction to make. Don't expect, because it ends in .bmp, that the system is going to actually know or care that it's a bitmap in Linux, where in Windows it actually does. So like I said, we'll go into that a little bit more later on, but I did want to make that clear. So going forward, we're going to show you how to do these copies and these moves from the File Explorer now in Windows. We do have a graphical user environment in Linux as well. The Windows one really is better. You know, Mac OS X, the GUI with the Apple computers and their setup is very, very good. It's very, very good with Microsoft as well. Most people who set up Linux and Unix servers really like the command prompt, and it'll be difficult to teach you with a Raspberry Pi to get you to be able to bring up a GUI. We could do it with something called X11 forwarding, but we are not going to get into that in this class at all, because it'll raise too many questions and bring up too many complexities for this level of a course. So I'm only going to go over the Windows actual graphical user interface stuff and not on the Linux side. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and show you how we copy and move files around in Windows. Thank you. Let's go over discussing copying and moving files and removing directories now from the Windows File Explorer. You've all seen this screen before. This is my home directory in Windows. It's C users Glenn in my case. It will be different for you for the actual username that you have. As we discussed, we created a temp directory, which is where I have everything. So since we're on the C drive, if I were to drag papers into the papers folder here, it's going to disappear. It's going to be similar to a move command. If I'm copying to a different drive or to a different machine, it won't operate this way. It will copy if it's on a separate machine. So know that if you're copying something from one place to another on the same machine, it's not going to copy it unless you right click on it and say copy. So if you just drag it and drop it here, for example, to papers, you can see it's gone from here and it's in the papers folder. That's very important to know. So now how do we get paper.txt back into the temp folder here? There's a couple ways we can do it here. We could actually just drag it up here and drop it back in. We could open up an entirely new File Explorer window altogether. However, for the purpose of this class, I'm going to demonstrate that by right-clicking and saying copy or cut. If I do a cut, it's going to be like a move. So we'll do a cut. We'll click back in the temp folder. then we'll right click again and we'll say paste. That's how you can do that. Likewise, I could go right click here, I could say cut and paste it back in. However, it's just as easy to drag it in this instance here. So let's put paper.txt right back here where it was. So it's under papers. Now, if I wanted to right click on this and I wanted to delete this, it's not going to prompt me. It will actually delete the whole folder right here, just like we would expect it to do. So there's no special flags, there's no special commands, you're not going to get an error. It's going to delete the papers folder if I do this. So at this point we've deleted the papers folder and we've deleted the files that were inside of that. So they're going to be inside the recycle bin, which means they're slated to be removed. So we can pull those back out of the recycle. Be aware of that. So now we have all of our folders back in here. When I restored that folder, I also restored papers.txt. Here I'll demonstrate how you can just drag it into the temp folder again. So now it's back. Hopefully we're able to see and understand that. So many computer people, many of you in this class I'm sure know how to do this as well within the File Explorer, but it is part of this class, and I do want you to see that working from the command line or working from the File Explorer, you can accomplish the same tasks. We're going to get into scripting and batch files a little bit later on, and that's when we can really unleash the power of the command line. Many system administrators, in fact most good system administrators, do everything at the command line because scripting is very important. So you're able to create macros using the File Explorer. However, that's a really sloppy way to do things and it leads to problems. So we've discussed removing files and directories. We've discussed moving files and copying files within the File Explorer under Windows now. Like I said, it's very cut and paste. If you have questions on this or anything else that we've discussed, please let me know. Like I said, all of our work compounds upon previous weeks here, which is why I'm trying to go as slowly with this as I can. But it's very important to understand what's going on and to retain knowledge from week to week. So that being said, we're going to move on to displaying the contents of a file to the screen, whether that be in the File Explorer or at the command line. Thank you. Now we're going to discuss displaying the contents of a file to the screen. So now we'll look at this from the command prompt side or from the Windows side, or we also call it the command line interface. It's also known as the DOS prompt or the command prompt. So let's take a look here. We've got contents.txt. So there is no concatenate command there. There's the type command, which will type it to the screen. And again, this is just like cat. When you type that in, it would just keep listing and listing and listing. There'd be no pause to allow you to read it. That's not going to be relevant here, however. So if I type contents.txt, it will just display it to the screen and it won't stop. Here's something interesting I want you to notice, and this is the same thing in Linux as it is on the Windows side. Right here we've got contents.txt. That's 0 bytes here, but if I scroll up and look at it, it's 636 bytes. So why is that? That's because this file had just been created. It didn't contain anything when the dir command was executed to put it in, to put the output into a file. So when we use that redirection symbol, this file had just been created and there was nothing in it yet. By the time the dir command completed, there were contents to it. So that's why this starts off as a 0 length file. The same thing here. You can see that it's a 0 length file here when I look at just the contents by listing out the contents of the file, used in this case using the cat command. However, if I do an ls command, I can see that there is some size to this here. That's just something really small. That's a little bit of a more in-depth concept than I wanted to discuss in this class, but I feel it's important to point it out. So that being said, let's try using the less command here in DOS or at the command line. and this is a trick, doesn't work. So less is not a command that's used on the Windows command line. However, more is a command that's still in use, and it works very similar to the way it does in Linux. So again, if this was longer than one page, it would pause and give you an opportunity to hit the space bar to continue or the Q to quit, just like it would in Linux. So we've, in the DOS side, we've got the type command and we've got the more command. So that is how you can list the contents to the screen. Please let me know, as always, if you have any questions here. I'm going to now go in and show you how to display the contents of a file in the File Explorer in Windows. Thank you. So now we'll look at this from the command prompt side, or from the Windows side, or we also call it the command line interface. It's also known as the DOS prompt or the command prompt. So let's take a look here. We've got contents.txt. So there is no concatenate command there. There's the type command, which will type it to the screen. And again, this is just like cat. When you type that in, it would just keep listing and listing and listing. There'd be no pause to allow you to read it. That's not going to be relevant here, however. So if I type contents.txt, it will just display it to the screen and it won't stop. Here's something interesting I want you to notice, and this is the same thing in Linux as it is on the Windows side. Right here we've got contents.txt. That's 0 bytes here, but if I scroll up and look at it, it's 636 bytes. So why is that? That's because this file had just been created. It didn't contain anything when the dir command was executed to put it in, to put the output into a file. So when we use that redirection symbol, this file had just been created and there was nothing in it yet. By the time the dir command completed, there were contents to it. So that's why this starts off as a 0 length file. The same thing here. You can see that it's a 0 length file here when I look at just the contents by listing out the contents of the file, used in this case using the cat command. However, if I do an ls command, I can see that there is some size to this here. That's just something really small. That's a little bit of a more in-depth concept than I wanted to discuss in this class, but I feel it's important to point it out. So that being said, let's try using the less command here in DOS, or at the command line. And this is a trick, doesn't work. So less is not a command that's used on the Windows command line. However, more is a command that's still in use, and it works very similar to the way it does in Linux. So again, if this was longer than one page, it would pause and give you an opportunity to hit the space bar to continue or the Q to quit, just like it would in Linux. So we've, in the DOS side, we've got the type command and we've got the more command. So that is how you can list the contents to the screen. Please let me know, as always, if you have any questions here. I'm going to now go in and show you how to display the contents of a file in the File Explorer in Windows. Thank you. So from the File Explorer, it's very, very simple to display the contents of the file. If it's a binary file, it's not going to open in a viewer, and you'll have difficulty seeing it if you do open it in Notepad or something like that. You'll get all kinds of hieroglyphic characters that are from the extended ASCII set. We might discuss that if time permits. However, if it's a binary file, or it's a file such as a video, a picture, if it's an image, it's not going to display as anything but gibberish. So I have Notepad++ installed on my PC. It's a program I highly recommend using. It's a very enhanced version of Notepad. But for this class, we're going to open it with Notepad. And you can see by the icon that it's associated with Notepad++. So here you can click on Edit, and it should open it with Notepad, as it does. So here it just says Echo is on for our contents. If I click Edit, it'll give me the contents of the contents.txt file that we created a few minutes ago. So it's very simple here. So you would just right click and you click on Edit, You might also click on Open With, and it gives you some options here. You can open it with WordPad. That comes with every version of Windows going back a very long time. Same thing with Notepad. I could also choose another app from the store. I could also open this with Internet Explorer. I can open this in Firefox as well, and it will all display us very easily. So that's how you view contents of a file from the File Explorer. It's very, very simple. Thank you very much. Here's something interesting I want to discuss with the class right now. When I was preparing my previous slide here, I made a mistake. So I've just hit enter several times. I've done it in the command line for Windows, and I've done it in Linux. Let's say I want to start clean and have it look nice. If I type on the Linux side, if I type clear, it'll clear the screen. And on the Windows command line, if I type CLS, it will also clear the screen. So let's do that. So I'll do a dir here, and I'll do an ls here. All right, now we've discussed how to copy files, we've discussed how to move files, we've discussed how to remove files and directories, and we've discussed how to display the contents of a file to the screen. So now let's look for files specifically. In Linux, we do this with the find command. So I could type find period. That'll look in my current working directory, because remember we discussed that in week 1. That's the current working directory is the period. If we wanted to look from the parent folder, we could do a find ... I welcome you to try that. However, you're going to get a lot of output errors because we haven't discussed file redirection yet and output redirection. So you're going to see a lot of your classmates' stuff which you will not have access to, and we haven't discussed file permissions yet either. So for now we'll do this from the current working directory. We could also do this from the tilde, which is your home directory, and as you can see here, we're in the home directory. So in this particular case, the tilde and the period will do the same thing because they're in actually the same spot. So after we do that, we type a dash name. That's just something you have to do. And we'll look for paper.txt. So I do a find tilde dash name paper.txt, and I can hit enter. And it's going to show me exactly where paper.txt is. On the Windows side, we can go ahead and look for contents.txt. However, you can look for it in the current folder in Windows, and in this case it's going to do the same thing either way. But you want to specify the /s flag. So dir /s will mean include subdirectories and look further down. So if you're looking for a file and it's in the current folder and you know it's in the current file folder, you don't need the /s. However, to do an accurate and good search for a file, you want to put the /s flag on it. So then we'll do contents.txt here, and we'll hit enter, and it'll show you where that is right there. So this is looking through, when I do this /s, it's looking for this file under videos, the directory, it's looking under the pictures directory, and it's looking under the papers directory, and it's going to try and find every instance of contents.txt. Now let's try and do the same thing here from our File Explorer. We're in the exact same folder here as we are here. So let's try typing contents.txt here. And you don't even have to hit enter. It tells you where it is. It goes ahead, it finds us, it tells us the size. It even gives you the volume number of my C drive, which I don't really care about, and I don't think you do either. But that's how we go ahead and search for files. That's how we do it in Linux. That's how we do it in the Windows command prompt, and that's how we do it from the File Explorer. Consequently, the find command from the Mac OS X terminal is going to be exactly like this because it's based on the BSD distribution of Linux. So for you Mac users out there, this command works. So if you have any questions, let me know. that's going to be our lecture for this week. Please make sure you understand my lectures. It's in your best interest to go out and do some of research on your own, whether you Google how to do this stuff or you look on YouTube for tutorials. I'm giving the online students an overview of this and how this works, and I'm demonstrating it. However, going forward, we're going to get a little more complex now, and you're going to want to do your own research outside of class as well. Thank you.